Hello. I'm Lisa Brown. I am newly teaching the picture book writing and illustration class here on Mondays and Wednesdays for the illustration department. And so I figured the first thing I would do is bring all my friends here. So I brought you Mac, Barnett, and Christian Robinson. I first met Mac when he was the director of the 826 Valencia Tutoring Center and Time Travel Mart in Echo Park. He drove my husband and I around Los Angeles, and while we were dressed as the Pope. Mac wasn't dressed as the Pope. My husband was dressed as the Pope, and I was dressed as the Pope. Since then, Mac has moved on to be an almost infallibly wonderful voice in children's book world. He's a picture book illustrator's dream collaborator. He's worked with illustrator Dan Sentat on Oh No, or How My Science Project Destroyed the World. He has worked with illustrator Kevin Cornell on Count the Monkeys and Mustache! Exclamation point. He has worked with illustrator Adam Rex on such picture books as Chloe and the Lion, Billy Twitters and His Whale Problem, and Guess Again, as well as on the Brixton Brothers mystery series for young readers. He has worked with Caldecott winning illustrator John Clausen on the 2013 Caldecott Honor book Extra Yarn. He's collaborated with John Cheska of Stinky Cheese Man fame and illustrator Matthew Myers on Battle Bunny, a book which teaches kids that it's okay to deface literature as long as it was a lame book to begin with. Right now, he has more and more exciting collaborations in the pipeline, including one with Christian Robinson, our featured illustrator tonight. And they're going to be doing a sort of behind the scenes, like a talk, what is it, the picture studio? Inside the actor's studio. All right. So I met Christian on a camping trip for Kids Book Folk, and we were bad campers, but we were great picture book enthusiasts. And I fell deeply in love with Christian's portrayal of Florence Mills, a cabaret singer, dancer, and comedian who was known as the Queen of Happiness during the Harlem Renaissance of the early 20th century. Christian started his artistic career as a character animator and did work for Jib Jab, Pixar, and the Sesame Shop. He's gone on to produce a number of gorgeous picture books in an incredibly short amount of time, including the one about Florence Mills called Harlem's Little Blackbird, written by Renee Watson, and Rain, with writer Linda Ashman, and most recently Josephine by Patricia Hruby Powell, a beautiful verse biography of Josephine Baker. His animations have been featured by Pop-Up Magazine in San Francisco, and his designs on red cap cards. And he just recently drew the Google Doodle for this past Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. And I'm supposed to hit play now for a very fabulous song. I can do this.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. Take a break. Hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along.
All right. So, is this awkwardly staged? Can everybody see Christian? Focus right here. So my name is Mac. This is Christian. Christian is he's one of my favorite illustrators working in picture books. He is somebody who makes me very excited for the next few decades of picture books. And he's a very good friend of mine, which is the only reason I was dancing. He's the only person who could ever get me to dance on stage like that. I find it hard to dance like nobody's watching when there are a lot of people watching. So Christian, just to start off, your website is The Art of Fun. Mm-hmm. What's The Art of Fun?
Well, can everyone hear us? Yes. I was told that.
We're not using a mic. Is that what we're doing?
No, I was told that this mic is like crazy good.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Sort of. Okay. So, that's right. My website is theartoffun.com. And look at that. It's right there.
So why the name The Art of Fun?
So I like this idea of, well, the art of means the mastery of a skill. And then fun is like fun. And I just really like having fun, especially with art. So I want to master just having fun, because sometimes making art, as art students know, can be stressful and overwhelming and torturing. But I want to have fun with it.
Good. All right, let's have some fun. Let's do this. Take us a little bit through just like your process of getting here. Like, how did you start illustrating books for children? Where'd you begin?
Okay. So as I'm talking, I'm also going to be trying to focus and like show visuals. It's going to be a hot mess, but I'll do my best.
Let's start in like high school, art school. How'd you begin?
Right. Well, I've been drawing my whole life. So ever since I was a kid, I'd say once it really like took root and I knew I wanted to take it serious was college, or probably high school, but for real serious, because you're paying money, college. And so,
where'd you go to school?
I went to Cal Arts. You guys familiar? This is a great college. It's true as well. But I studied animation. There was no illustration department at Cal Arts, and so I thought I'd be an animator. And I love storytelling, and I love visual storytelling. So even the world of animation it helped push me along in this path of illustrating children's books.
So was it in college that you started to think you wanted to do illustration and picture books?
Not necessarily, no. I think I just knew I wanted to continue making things, telling stories. I didn't know it would be picture books just yet. I think it clicked for real once I got an internship. After college, I graduated, and what brought me out to the Bay Area was an internship at Pixar, and I was in their art department. And I mean, maybe I could show some visuals from that time period. Yeah. Let's see if this worked. So while I was there, I just I did like a lot of exploring of the characters of Up at the time. That was the feature on its way out. And so, yeah. Any other questions?
No. All right. So you're at Pixar. How'd you get involved with Pixar? How'd you get an internship there?
That's a good question. So Cal Arts has a pretty great relationship with Pixar, and every year, I'm sure like you guys have a portfolio review. They have one at the end of the year, and of course I put together a portfolio and was fortunate enough to get a call back, and cried and begged for them to have me, and they did, and yeah.
And then you moved up to the Bay Area.
And then I moved up to the Bay Area, and while I was there, I just sort of was told by my mentor, who is this incredible guy who's worked there forever, to just sort of, how would I interpret these characters in my own style? So that was like my first assignment. Yeah. So yeah, what were their names? Gary, Kevin, and Doug.
And this led to your first book.
Yes. And so my first book deal happened in this crazy way where I was invited to a meeting with the head directors at Pixar at the time, or on Up, and they basically were just having this meeting looking at how things are going and progressing at the film. And my mentor, Ben Butcher at the time, he asked me to just sort of bring some illustrations that I had been working on to that meeting and maybe just pin them on a little board and just have them there in the background. And, it was like the sort of thing that you daydream about happening to you, where, the director and the producer kind of look over and say, oh, what's that over there? And then the next thing you know, they're like, we should have this dude do a book. And like that. Yeah, who knew?
There you go.
It's just that easy. But the reality is, of course, I was stressed out and it was scary. And I just remember when my mentor said that, oh, well, tomorrow we're having a meeting. You should come, bring some stuff. I didn't go home that night. I pretty much stayed in, and I illustrated and drew and just kind of put some stuff together that I hope they might like, or at least that I liked. Yeah. So that's that.
Do you have any stuff from that book? What was that book?
Oh, right. So the book, is called Beware of Doug. This is an early sketch. And actually, if you feel free anytime in this talk to just come up and check out some books.
Don't just come up in the middle of this talk and check out these books.
This is why he's here.
Feel free after this talk.
All right. I'm the nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some illustrations from that book. Yeah. This was.
Oh, sorry.
What was the question? What?
My head was in the way, I think.
Mac.
I know. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, I should have got bigger images. Something like that. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it was just my first experience. It was pretty intimidating and exciting. There was actually a lot of trouble that I had. A lot of challenges came up in this book because, you know, I was still in that process of figuring out my own style while being told by art directors at that time to keep it within the Disney style because, you know, these characters are very iconic and you want to stay close to them. So yeah. But
when do you feel like you started to develop your own style, that you felt like you had settled into a style that was yours?
Do I have a style?
I think you have a style. I actually love your style. I really want to talk to you about style. How do you know when something is truly yours? You know?
So I'm going to move around that question.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say, well, one of my favorite illustrators of children's books by the name of Quentin Blake.
Yep.
He illustrated Matilda, The Witches.
A lot of Roald Dahl stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
He's incredible. He's a genius. I've seen him talk on style, and he said something that I agree with, subscribe to. Basically that style is sort of like penmanship. It's just something that hopefully just comes naturally. Of course, it's based on your influences and what inspires you, but it's something that, you know, you shouldn't hopefully have to stress too hard over. Yeah.
So who are some of your influences?
That's a great question. All right, so let's see. Inspiration. I have so many. Let's see. That's
nature.
Feather. I don't know why that got in there. But I think, yeah, things like this, random things inspire me. Let's see. Oh, this is a French illustrator by the name of Beatrice. She's amazing. Look at these horses. Oh, Kiki, don't get me started. I'm just, what was the question? What inspired you?
Yeah, what inspired you? What are your influences going into your style?
I think I've always been drawn to like things that would appeal to kids. Like that's just, it just happened to be that way. Like this makes me so happy. It's this toy, I want to play on this. This is weird.
Kids love that book. Kids love that book.
Wait. Anyway, here we go. So, you know, just simplicity excites me. Little things like that. Yeah, photos inspire me. Things that have like magical feelings, things that make you remind you of scale and and tell stories. Like this just tells a whole story without even words.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the slides too?
Yep.
This is from a Russian illustrator. They're great. All of them. This is something also Russian. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is one of my favorite illustrators. His name is Leone.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
And another favorite, what's his name? Abner Graboff. He's amazing. He kind of did something new in illustration where he just kind of took photos of things. Like he just literally would cut out things and just throw them on a piece of paper and then just take a photo. And that's a kid's book. Ben Shahn, oh, so amazing. He did like really great pen and ink work. That's a painting he did.
Yeah. So you were saying earlier that you take all these influences, you're just kind of paying attention to all these things around you, and then you combine that with your own brain, right? Like that was your sort of definition of style.
Yeah, style is basically like being a sponge for me, like just kind of absorbing all the things that excite me and that I love in design and in the world. I think, was it Albert Einstein who said this?
Oh, that's good.
It's a good intro. Who said, the key to creativity is knowing how to hide your sources. Now, listen, Einstein, I mean, I get what he's saying and I appreciate what he's saying. Basically that in this world we live in, we just take it all in and we're being inspired and that's the key to creativity, is having these sources. But the reality is, I don't necessarily subscribe to having to hide your sources. I feel like, the things that we can be inspired by are abundant and they're out in the world, and you don't have to feel ashamed for being influenced by someone else's work.
All right, so you did the book for Pixar and then skyrocketed into a career immediately afterwards, right? It just did not stop.
If by skyrocketing you mean babysitting and working at doing web merchandising, no.
Yeah.
For a year. I still don't even know what web merchandising is. Actually, no, after Pixar, I was in a wandering period where I pretty much wandered. I'm not joking. I literally was a babysitter for a family. I did after-school art with kids. You guys want to see some of that after-school art with kids? I really love this job. We did junk art where we did found objects and I would have them make things. This is those fruit carton containers that you see oranges in. See? And then, why is he so small? And then I did things with corkscrews with them. That's controversial. A giraffe. I think found wood. This is some of their work. It's nice. So yeah, I did a bunch of random jobs. For about a year, 2 years, I was pretty much just wandering. But what I managed to do was, on my free time, just continue to make things. Even after school, just make things. And I would post about these things on my blog. I actually have it up. This is a blog I no longer use, but I don't know. It's sort of, what am I saying?
Yeah, you were just posting all the stuff that you were doing in that wandering period. So anytime you were making art, you were making sure to put it up there for people to see.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the next book you did was Queer, right?
Right, okay.
How did you get that book?
Yes, okay. So, yeah, in that wandering period, I literally would take any job that came my way, or at least I was looking for any creative job that came my way besides doing pay-the-bill work. I went on to Craigslist, and I found an illustration job to illustrate this book called Queer, and they didn't pay, they paid me what they could. But I was just excited to be illustrating. Here's some illustrations from that. It's called Queer, an LGBT guide to teens. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's some. This was about how things not to say on a first date, because us LGBT need help. Anyway, this is about how there's no rules. Anyone can pay if it's two guys. I don't know.
Just don't do that. Any teens.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
yeah, you got this job off of Craigslist. You searched this out,
yes,
and just took this work.
Right. Basically, Pixar was one of those things where it was this amazing life event. It was the dream internship after college, but the world didn't open up after that. I literally was kind of almost in a worse place because I thought, oh wait, this validated me in a minute, but now I'm not, obviously I wasn't good enough, or I didn't know, at the time I thought that to keep going or to be accepted fully, but I don't know, I just knew that I loved illustrating and I loved telling stories, so whether I had a job doing it or not, I just wanted to continue doing it, and that's what I did, and that's why I kept a blog.
So what happened with that blog?
So, eventually, that blog, Eventually, that blog landed me, well, one day, I got an email from this guy named Stephen Malk. He basically said, Mr. Robinson, if you don't have an agent, consider this fan mail. And it was a really, really sweet letter, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about an agent or anything. And yeah, and so he ends up being one of the best possible, people you can have out there in your corner. And
so yeah, he volunteered to represent you.
Yes.
Based on this. I think we should see a little bit more of the stuff on your blog, just so you can kind of see. I think this is a really important thing, no matter what kind of illustration you want to do. I mean, I know we share an agent. I don't draw at all, but I know when our agent is going through websites looking for clients, potential clients, he's looking for things that look like the kind of work he wants to represent. So things that look like they could be in a picture book. And Christian was just doing that kind of stuff. That's stuff he said he liked doing,
I don't know how to get back to where I was.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, but like there were lots of pictures that looked like they were from picture books. Lots of pictures of animals. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay. Oh wait, you have to scroll backwards. Okay. Let's go further back in my time. Okay. So let's see. Oh, it's taking a while. All right. No. Oh, that only went to one specific post. Let's start over. So yeah.
All right. So yeah. So you're like just Christian's blog was kind of all the art that he wanted to get paid to do, that he wasn't getting paid to do, but was making anyway. And Steve saw this stuff.
Right.
And it looked like it could be kids book art. So specifically, like if you're interested in kids books, you should be thinking about that when you're putting together a portfolio online. I think. Things that look like they could be in picture books, or to recover children's novels you read as a kid, to draw plenty of things that are in books, kids, animals. What else, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the best piece of advice that I could give to someone interested in pursuing children's books, illustrating children's books, is simply to create children's books, to illustrate children's books. It doesn't mean necessarily they're going to get published or that they will be represented or that you'll get a deal, but basically do this thing that you enjoy doing. Basically, before I even had any deals, I was just telling stories and just doing it for fun, because the reality is once the opportunity does arise where you actually can maybe make an illustrated children's book that will get published, it doesn't get any easier if you don't have any sort of practice. And so, yeah, just do it.
All right, so you got an agent. Mm-hmm. What does an agent do? Like, what's Steve's job? How did that change your life day to day once you got hooked up with Steve?
Basically, an agent was very helpful for me because my brain just doesn't work in a certain way where, I can't read a contract. That's nonsense. And so to have someone who is looking, in your corner, who you trust and who can basically just help you make these sort of decisions, who has experience, who has history, it made it a lot easier for me. I know a lot of artists and friends who are illustrators and don't have agents, and they're doing fine and just as successful. For me, it's just been very helpful to have someone in my corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's out there looking for manuscripts for you too, right? Like those are being sent to him, and he's also going out and talking to editors about that.
Great. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the way the process works is once he chooses to represent me, he'll have a little display of my work on his site or on the agency site, and then publishers will come across the artwork and say, oh, we have a manuscript, we have a story we think would be great to pair with this illustrator. And so then he passes on these scripts to me, and it's crazy. I get to choose and say, yeah, I want to work on that. That sounds amazing. Yeah. And when I first started, I didn't say no to anything because, I was doing Craigslist. So it was an awesome how and it was kind of scary to even be able to say, no, I don't think I want to work on this.
Yeah. So how do you evaluate that? How do you choose which picture book manuscript you want to draw pictures for and spend a lot of your time working on?
I think basically the story, of course. If the story resonates with me, if it excites me, if I know I'd have fun illustrating it, yes. And you know something about that, Mac, being a writer of children's books. Reading certain manuscripts, you kind of can now, you can see, is that the word? You can almost feel who knows how to write in such a way that it gives the illustrator a chance to shine or to have fun.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing, like writing picture books. I think even if you are an artist who can illustrate and write, I can only write, but you've got to be, your job as a writer is to, I think, leave opportunities for the illustrator to look good, basically to create opportunities for the illustrator to look good. I think in a good picture book, you know, the whole idea of like story by, if you see that on the cover of a book, that always bugs me. Because it's like, I'm not in charge of the story. You're deciding what characters look like, what scenes look like, what the pace is. Like, you're doing so much storytelling. You're doing at least half. I think in good picture books, probably 60, 70%. They're like huge. If I write a picture book manuscript and it works as a story without art, then like I know it's not a picture book. Like, it's failed. It's got to have that art to work. Yeah. So you're looking for those opportunities to fill in those stories, right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So what's the first picture book you illustrated, like for a big house?
All right. So the first book I had the opportunity to illustrate was titled Harlem's Little Blackbird.
I love those end papers.
Thank you. What? Oh, okay.
There we go. So what's this book about?
It's not. All right. Oh, you try it. Okay.
No.
We'll come back to this.
I love those end papers, though. That's the good news.
It's about this young lady named Florence Mills. She basically was the first black woman to like star in a Broadway play. I had never heard of her, and what appealed to me about her story was just that like her parents were slaves, and she ends up being like the first star on Broadway. And she also had just like this enormous spirit. She was very like giving and loving, and I mean her story is just incredible.
And she had this amazing voice, but we don't have any recording of her voice, right?
Yeah. She was in a time when recording equipment wasn't that great, and so there's no known recordings of her voice. Yeah. Let's see. Yep. Oh, here we go. Okay. So yeah, and my process is sort of like this. When I start off, I do really, really rough sketches when I'm working on a book. So these are actually Post-it notes. And then I share these with the editor, art director, and they basically, tell me if they think it looks good, the pages, how it's flowing. And then personally, I do like a little color design test to flesh it out a little bit more. I do that digitally. So that was like the same, those were the exact same scenes. So then, yeah, I do color, and then I do the final art, which is collage. I love working collage. That's sort of my favorite medium, collage and paint. Yeah.
And then, are you digitally altering afterward ever, or is it just scans of the collage?
There is some digital editing. I try to keep it as, I don't know, what's the word? Not digital.
Analog.
But this is actually, see that lighting right there? That's digital. But yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. All right, what's the next book?
So after Harlem's Little Blackbird, what happened? I worked on a book called Rain. Let's see. You know, have Rain queued. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay, and this book was exciting and new because it really doesn't have that many words. There's maybe like I don't know, like 20 words in the whole book or something.
What did this manuscript look like? I mean, here, show a little bit of the book. You want to do a little?
Well, I mean, it's here.
No, but as the book, like just as a book. Just read us the book. Read us the book, Christian.
Yes. See, I'm very happy to have Mac here because when I was asked to come here, the idea of giving a lecture sounds very frightening. But a conversation doesn't sound scary.
Show everybody all the pictures.
Right, show people. Okay, so yeah, this is like the book. Some people can see. So it like starts off like on a rainy day, and you see this old man. He's like, rain, and the little boy, rain. And so the whole book is just sort of about how these two people can have different perspectives about the same day and experience it differently. It's also about energy and what happens when two opposing energies can like meet.
Read us some more.
Okay. So the old man goes, nasty galoshes, blasted overcoat. There goes my hair. This is how I present to kids. Anyway, and then the mom goes, it's raining cats and dogs. And the boy goes, it's raining frogs and pollywogs. Hippity hop. And so just more of that. He's all angry. He's like, dang puddle. And the boy's like, ribbit. And he's like, enjoy your paper, sir. And he's like, just more bad news. He's a grumpy killjoy. Yeah, so it just keeps going. You guys, can you imagine what happens when they finally meet? Someone say boom.
They explode.
Yeah, I mean, he gives him a cookie, and he doesn't accept his cookie, and he feels really sad. But
Keep reading, Christian. Don't slow down. You're doing great. Go right here.
All right, so the old man loses his hat, and the boy chases him down and says, hey, wait, you lost your hat. And then the old man goes, you again. And then the boy puts on the old man's hat and goes, you. See, and he's like putting a grumpy expression. So the old man was like, what? That's how I am? Sometimes you need to put a mirror to yourself. And so, I mean, this book is deep. And so then there's a change, a shift where the old man like chills out and, the boy sort of changed his mood. The happy mood won out in the end. And at the end, he's like, yum, I got, thank you for sharing your cookie. And the old man comes home, and he sees the doorman, and he jumps in the puddle and goes, ribbit. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So what did that manuscript look like, right? Because a lot of the storytelling there is in the art.
Yeah, it read like just a bunch of description. Just old man is angry. Old man walks up to store. Like it wasn't like story. It was
Yeah. So it was like notes about the art.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you feel like, I mean, I think that there were a lot of problems for you to solve in here, right? Like how to lay this book out and so yeah, go to this next one. So this was like your choice, right? To lay this out with this kind of two-spread thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about this work also is there's oftentimes a lot of freedom to just kind of explore and play and tell the story as you see fit. And of course, naturally I thought, oh, well, this is all about duality, so I got to show side-by-side comparison. And it's great, like I said earlier, when an author gives the illustrator a chance to just sort of have fun and run and go with it and use their imagination. Mm-hmm.
That's where he's saying more bad news, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go through these. And like there, Rain or Shine Cafe, you named that, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. See, that's one of the great things too, is that like as a writer, smart illustrators put text in and make us look good. Because we take credit for that stuff. Rain or Shine Cafe, yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
People would be like, that's a great name for a cafe. And I'd be like, thank you very much. I know. It's not a lie.
So yeah.
All right. So there's Rain.
Yes.
What's the next book?
So the next book, I hope this is interesting, you guys. The next book is Josephine, which just came out last month. And it's about Josephine Baker.
And what was exciting about this book? Like when you got this manuscript, why did you want to do this?
Well, I was very aware of Josephine Baker. I have her story, and I was inspired by her life story. Is anyone familiar with her? Raise of hands. Yeah? Okay. I mean, well, just to tell a little bit about her, actually, this is how I present it to second graders. Do you know who Josephine Baker was?
And then they get scared.
Yeah.
You always start by glaring when you're talking to children.
And then I say, you know, she was a spy. She lived in a castle. She was a pilot. She adopted 12 kids. She was a movie star. She was a singer. She was a dancer. She got divorced like 5 times. She lived life. I mean, she's this incredible character. Oh, and she had a pet leopard. Oh, my God. Cheetah. Its name is Chiquita. Chiquita the cheetah. Yeah, so when I first received this manuscript, I thought the gods are, favor me this day. It was amazing. And so, yeah, it was like the biggest, it was just the world. It meant the world. And so these are some more rough sketches.
And what are you doing? So when you're laying this out, right, you are choosing which words go with each page. That's not something that the editor does. It's not something that I do when I write. Like, it's your decision to pair these words with pictures and to say which scenes you're going to show, right?
Correct. I'm trying to look for something. So yeah, this is actually the manuscript for Rain. I had it on me, but it's more or less what most manuscripts look like. And actually, no, this one is all paginated. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was that, yeah, sometimes you get manuscripts that aren't separated.
And you could ignore her if you wanted to with her pagination, right?
Well, hers was more. Anyway, the point is, yeah. Oh man.
So what are you doing when you're laying this out? Why are you doing it like this? What things are you determining right now when you're laying out your Post-it notes? What decisions are you making?
I am deciding what words go where. I'm deciding what images are most important to focus on. What is the best way to communicate this story? What's the easiest way to like convey a feeling or a situation, And
you can kind of see the flow of things nicely too. Like, so much is about the page turn in a picture book, right? Like what happens each time you turn the page, and this is a way that you can see what's coming next. The images having that relationship to each other all together.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So what's next?
Next, books.
No, with Josephine.
So yeah, here's some like original art, photos of original art. This book I did all in collage. I mean, in all acrylic. Typically I do collage, but this one I wanted to mix things up and just kind of paint the whole book. The book deals with a lot of issues that are kind of, some might think are heavy for, a picture book. It deals with, of course, segregation, racism. It talks about how she wasn't allowed in most of the clubs that she sang and performed in. It talks about how even this pet cheetah she had, she would walk it, she became big in Paris, and she would walk down the Champs-Élysées with her pet cheetah, and newspapers would post things like they weren't sure at what end of the leash was the wild animal. Like, people were very mean and mean to her. This is an image of my studio at the time when working on it.
Where was she born, Josephine?
She was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and she left home by train at 12 years old without telling her parents, because she really just loved dancing and she wanted to be in this vaudeville circuit traveling act. I mean, she just was like a really bold person even from the beginning.
And how old was she when she went to Paris?
Like 19. And she quickly rose to stardom there. Do I have photos of the posters? Let's see, Josephine process. Reference, yes. So she was made famous by this illustrator in Paris called Paul Collins, and this is one of her famous illustrations that he did of her. They supposedly had an affair as well. I mean, geez Louise, like how awesome is that? I mean, I had so much, so much to go off of, so much reference, so much to be inspired by. But it was crazy because it's a kid's book, right? So I had to find that balance of how to share her story in a way that is appealing or appropriate for kids. Al Hirschfield, he did an illustration of her. Yeah, and it all, because it was a time period, it all like, has this minstrel-y sort of feel. Mm-hmm.
So there's your studio. Like, take us through, like, show us your studio again. So where do you work? Do you work from home?
So at the time, I was working out of my bedroom / studio, because it's San Francisco's crazy expensive. So yeah, and I love my room, and so it was a great place at the time for me to create. Now I work in a shared artist studio,
And take us through like a typical day. Like, what's a day at work?
A day at work is, well, oftentimes as illustrators, we're given about, I want to say 3 to 4 months to illustrate an entire book. And a book typically is about, I'd say I have to create about 40 pieces of artwork. Cover, bookends, spreads. Josephine, however, is a very large book. It's 106 pages, which is unusual for a picture book. So it was a lot more work in a lot short amount of time. But like I said, this story like compelled me so much that I didn't care. I just wanted to do it. So a typical day for Josephine was just sort of every day get up. After I finished the sketching phase, it was almost pretty much I had to complete a painting almost every day. But that didn't always happen. Sometimes I had to oftentimes like throw a lot of things away, but oftentimes, yeah, painting a day pretty much. Yeah.
And how about when you're not working on a book? Are you just like getting manuscripts to read? Is that what's happening? Or are you just doing that both at the same time? Will you like read a manuscript in the morning, decide whether or not you want to do it, and then go work on something else in the afternoon? Are you working on multiple books at the same time, or do you focus on one?
Yeah. I feel like for me at least, in order to be able to make a living illustrating books, there is no time that I'm not working on a book. And I'm fortunate enough to have enough work coming in that I can keep working. So I'd say, yeah, oftentimes when I'm illustrating final art for one book, I'm starting those post-it note sketches for another book. And so it's just this constant sort of cycle. And then also promoting books, going out to schools and talking to kids and sharing them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about race.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
So now it's Black History Month, right? And this is kind of a time, I think, typically, there's a classic thing that in bookstores all over the country.
I'll put that up for a rating.
There we go. Like the Black biographies go on tables, and they're there for 28 days, and then they go back on the shelves. Mm-hmm. And so you write both. You've written, and you've illustrated Josephine, Harlem's Little Blackbird, 2 Black biographies. Also Rain, which there's a person of color as the main character, right? That little boy. What role does race play in your work?
So there are some questions that I asked him not to tell me what he was going to ask. It's happening now. Well, I mean, I would say it's not a significant role, but maybe it's like an unconsciously significant role, if that makes sense. Basically, I don't set out to say I'm going to make a Black book, but I do, to me, as a Black American person, I think I value making sure that everyone feels represented in the world, and especially in children's books when you're just getting into the world. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we had. I think that's right. Like I love that about Rain. Well, I mean that's so interesting too. Like one thing I think is that's your call to make, right? Like that's not my call as a writer.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you what my characters look like unless it's something in the text. I'm not telling you even like what color hair anybody has. It's not my job, and it's bad picture book writing to say what anything looks like because you're going to see it. So you get to make these decisions.
Right.
You get to decide what characters look like, how tall they are, and what race they are,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great thing. Like, I love that about Rain. It strikes me that, like, for a long time, there weren't really any people of color in picture books, right? Like in this golden age of American picture books, like the 40s through the 60s, you have very famously The Snowy Day, but like minorities are really underrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've come in and there are books that are about identity. But then you also have books like Rain where like, you know, it's just about a little guy having an amazing day in a frog outfit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was something that's been missing for a long time.
Yeah.
In picture books. This is like it's great. Like if I were a little black kid, I would be like, when do I get to go to space? Where's the character who looks like me, who's an astronaut?
That's a very great point. Actually, yeah. I mean, I feel like, I love these biographies. These meant something to me, but sometimes I'll get asked to illustrate manuscripts about things that don't interest me at all, and I'm not even sure it would interest a kid.
Like what?
Like, well, I'll just be very. I won't say any. What am I? Okay, so basically, as a kid, you know, like you were saying, like I want to read the story about the kid who goes to the moon or fights a dragon or, you know, whatever. I don't really know if I want to read about the first black person who played a piano. You know,
right? I
want to it should be fun and silly and goofy. So, you know, of course there is a place at the table for these sort of stories because, like. This is going to be hard to say, but like American history is almost white history.
Right.
And so it is important that we have these stories that show black history.
Yeah, and like American picture books about blasting around on rockets are like white kids blasting around on rockets, right? So I feel like we've gotten really good at addressing that first thing, and we're just starting to get better at addressing the second thing.
So yeah, like my grandmother says, it's my hope to illustrate books in which basically I can chew gum and walk at the same time, do two things, like tell important stories that need to get out there, but also tell these stories that hopefully are fun and appeal to every kid, every color, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other ambitions you have as an illustrator at the start of your career? Like what's next? What stuff are you working on? And what do you want to do? Like what would you love to illustrate? Well,
okay, one ambition is basically just to keep continuing doing what I'm doing right now. So hopefully that will work out. But also just, I think like you were saying, like continue to tell these stories that are fun. Hopefully write and illustrate my own story one day.
Yeah. What's coming next? What are you working on right now?
So, let's see. So after Josephine, I worked on 2 other books that are not out yet. Let's see, where are they? Oh, one is Gaston. So this one moves away from race because it's about a bulldog. These are very early sketches. Race is back here. So I made sure that the nurse was black. And it's about, I don't know how much I can get into the story, but it's just a story. It's very sweet. It's about a mix-up of puppies and how, you know, the outside might not match the inside, but just be yourself. It's a very, very...
So about race is what you're saying. It's
yes. Yeah. And, yeah, it was fun. It was fun to just do something silly. Yeah.
That was great. And you said you were working on 2 books right now, right?
All right, and another book is, let's see, do we have that queued? Oops. The other book I'm working on now is called The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade. It's sort of it's a book about bullying, or more so standing up to bullies. This book I did entirely in colored pencil, pretty much.
And how'd you make that choice? Like, why'd you switch away from collage and do colored pencil? Like, how do you decide to do that each time?
Because, like my website, The Art of Fun, it's important for me to just have fun. And so I have fun when I'm exploring, when I'm trying new things, when I'm just, you know, playing around.
So is that important to you each time you're starting a new project to figure out both like what medium you're going to use, but also to like push yourself somewhere new?
Yes.
Great.
So yeah. I know, the janitor's black. I should have thought about that. Anyway, it brings up questions of privilege, and I just... Okay. Right.
And let's talk about non-book stuff, too, because you do more than illustrate for books. So you did the Google Doodle. some animation. How'd the Google Doodle come about? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so...
Show it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there it is. All right, that was an early version of it. But that's pretty much it. That's me working on it in my studio. It came about by just, I literally got a text message one day asking if I would be interested in doing a Google Doodle for MLK Day, which is crazy. But it was because a friend of a friend works at Google and knew I did illustration and asked me if I'd want to do the illustration. And of course I said yes. I had all these ideas of things I wanted to do. I wanted to be interactive. I wanted to play. I wanted to have audio. And they were just like, no. So, you know, but I was happy with what I was able to do.
And you snuck a lot of Masonic symbols in there too, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that YouTube video. Show that.
Whoa, we could do that.
Yeah.
All right, okay, here we go. So basically, a scary part of working and seeing your work out in the world is that people out in the world see things sometimes in your work that you did not intend.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's hard. It's hard making anything and reading what people think about it on the internet, but this was just like took it to a whole new level.
Yeah. I mean, we should never read comments on YouTube. They're clearly written by people who are composed of mold and spores.
There's like a funny
What?
try again.
All right, here we go. So the title is MLK Google Doodle, Illuminati, Freemason Symbolism, The Great Betrayal.
Hi everyone. I look for a lot of the different secrets and mysteries from all around the world, looking for the coming of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, the Son of God, who was raised from the dead and took all.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward. So some key points. Let's see. Where's the good stuff?
Yeah, it was like 4:55.
Maybe here.
Now, they've been showing the symbolism all around the world of Obama as the host for when he comes down. And this glyph, it shows, you see in his hand here, is that new Eucharist being blended. You see
you
the
did not
two
draw
sides
this.
being blended together.
No, but it gets worse. Here we go. Let's see.
Hallelujah. Thank you very much, everybody. Everything continues to just be verified over and over again.
No, hold on.
Exactly as we keep showing
Wait,
it.
hold on. No, you guys, it gets even
Let's
better.
even show this here for the people that even watch like Harry Potter. They had a symbolism here of the Dark Lord coming down and being reawakened. And they kept showing like this man with the face on the back. And they've shown this before about Obama.
Anyway, you get the idea.
So like, I'm just curious, when you're making this, like,
And look at the comments. People agree. People agree.
it's like, how do you decide to show Obama making the Eucharist in his hand when you're doing this?
Yeah, I don't know. There's none of that.
So yeah, well, like I thought it would be a fun thing. You tell us a little bit about that animation you did too, that you showed for Pop-Up Magazine.
Yeah. Okay. So, was it okay? So
Tell us a little bit about how that came about. What is it and how did it come about? You guys, anybody been to Pop-Up Magazine?
Yeah.
What is Pop-Up Magazine?
Pop-Up Magazine is like a live magazine, like people, editors, writers, journalists, basically sharing their stories live. It infuses music and stuff. It's really cool. I'm not doing an awful job of describing it.
It's like a live magazine, right?
Yeah, it's like This American Life meets, it's all those things. And so basically they asked me if the last episode, or recent episode they did was on music, and they asked me if I'd be interested in doing anything about music, and they knew I did animation. So yeah, I created this animation where I basically asked kids what they thought about music. Do you guys want to check it out really quick? It's only like a minute or so. let's see, where is it? Probably in animation. No.
Music is like a way of showing you how people express their feelings.
It is kind of like a pattern, and it's also a bunch of voices and drums, other stuff.
It is a song. You have to keep the rhythm. You can't do this. This is music. Bang, 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 bang. Music is like this. Like, we will rock you. Or like Queens. That's what music is. Let's see. Classical music. Like Madonna.
Well, my mom's favorite is sort of good, but I don't really like songs that are slow.
I love to listen to Bob Marley. It's my favorite one.
Some of my favorite jazz is Michael Jackson and Beatles.
I mean, I kind of like rap, like when they make stuff like rhyme and they say a lot of stuff.
Don't know. Justin Bieber?
Elvis Presley.
I don't know her either.
I think she's a really famous one.
She has too much bracelets.
I think that's Katy Perry or Lady Gaga.
Let's see. That's hard. Do you have hints?
I don't know.
Looks like a pirate drummer. I don't know. I think he raps. George Washington.
Oh, he's one of the... I'm a big piano fan. I think he played piano.
I think he's just wearing a wig. It looks like pizza. You put it inside, then it do some music. It's that little disc that goes on a music player in the old times.
A record.
A record. A trumpet and a trumpet. I think it's a wind blower. I don't know.
It's a gramophone.
A recorder. Oh, wait. No. A tape? A tape.
It's a tape. It's an
old movie.
No, that
That's
can't
not a
be.
movie.
La 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 da da da.
I think it'll sound the same.
Like way cooler because there'll be new bands. I think it might be like more cooler and newer.
Me too.
Differenter.
Me too.
All right, so we got some time to open this up to questions from the audience if anybody has any questions about